Horizon UX, and this is the Italian tank meme by the channel Potential History. I think I watched one video from Potential History about how Germany could not win World War II or something, or Germany's problem in World War II, something like that. I'm pretty sure I remember that, which was a really good video. So yeah, this is about the Italian tank meme. This is a history. So I guess he's gonna talk about the history of these memes or something, Italian tanks and why they were what they were. Because I'm pretty sure this is a history channel, not some meme channel type of thing. But yeah, that's what it. Garbage. Italian tanks were that bad?
Some of the ultimate meme tanks, at least in my opinion, are those from the Italians. And unlike many memes from World War II that became jokes later on, or grew out of myths, the people who saw them firsthand were well aware of this at the time. Erwin Rommel writes often about the lack of supplies and equipment given to Italian soldiers by their commanders in North Africa, and their performance suffering as a result. So today we will look at one aspect of this, their tanks. But first, some background from the Armchair Historian.
Hey guys, Griffin here from the Armchair Historian channel. Italy is remembered as one of the three big Axis powers, hell-bent on asserting fascist control all across the globe. Well, either that or as a total joke, and more recently, the latter. From the outset, during the invasion of Greece, Italy would establish a reputation for not doing so well in the war-waging department. From Stalingrad to Bardia, oh god, just look at that. Italy's performance remains poor to say the least. For more information on the incompetence of Italy's military, check out the video in the description below. Thanks to Potential History for collaborating with me on this topic.
This is the most numerous tank produced by the...
I think it's about Italy, right? Like, who said that? That's Italy's a soft underbelly of the Europe or something?
Italian army, which was directly influenced by the design of the British Carden Loyd Mark VI tankette. Often referred to as the CV-33, it featured riveted armor. Hey Mussolini, World War I called. It wants its shitty armor design back. And a bogie suspension on a leaf spring. Although by the time the L-35 variant came out, the armor was bolted, which made for a sturdier design. It was equipped with twin 8mm machine guns and was used just about everywhere the Italians fought, from the Soviet Union to Italian East Africa, and remained in service for the duration of the war. Press F for the guy who had to crew one of these in 1944. The only notable variant of...
Oh my god. That's a meme? That, what is that? Advanced Warfare, right? Call of Duty, press F to pay respects. I remember watching that Conan video, Clueless Gamer. Where he's like, press F to pay respects, what the fuck? I guess he started the meme. I'm pretty sure he made that video before the game was launched. Right? The developers gave him to review it. Not review, play it on his Conan show.
Of this tank was the L3 LF flamethrower variant, as it could spread panic against enemy forces if it got close.
Yeah.
Although functional, these tanks did poorly against just about anything with an actual anti-tank gun, or really just a high-caliber rifle or machine gun. But I mean, I guess it's kind of cute.
Seriously, man, what he said about, anybody who had to crew those tanks. I mean, this is in, World War II, like, what the fuck? They're going against some of the, this feels like tanks from World War I. Right? And World War II was really vicious. So imagine just, being like patriotic, right? Going like, I'm gonna fight for my country. Going to that shithole of a tank from, like, looks like it's from 30 years ago or something. Damn.
Fielded in 1940, the L640, designed as a direct upgrade from the L335, was the main tank used by the Italian army on the Eastern Front and also saw service in the North African campaign. It was a light design with riveted armor between 6 to 30mm in thickness, and had a one-man turret in the center with a single Beretta Modello 35 20mm main gun and a Beretta coaxial machine gun. Due to shortages of medium tanks in the Italian army, it was quickly put into regular units, though it was mainly designed for scouting and reconnaissance. It was first put into action in the Balkans and made up a lot of the Italian armored forces in Operation Barbarossa. Although slightly better, this thing was basically a stunted Panzer II, and featured still many outdated designs such as a side door escape hatch and an underpowered engine. This tank was designed to replace most of the Italian designs before it, being sent in large amounts to most of the Italian divisions to directly upgrade old models, and ended up being the main battle tank for the Italians during the war. The design was mostly upgrades from previous tanks, namely a wider turret to hold a 47mm anti-tank gun, and a better
Wait a
engine.
minute, isn't this the gun in Mafia 2 game? There's a scene where you fight in Sicily or something, and some local guy comes with a tank. I'm pretty sure it's this tank, right?
For mobility. The design borrowed heavily from Vickers 7-ton, which meant it was based on reliable, tried-and-true tank-building methods, which was very good. The problem was, these methods were from the early 30s, making the tank outdated at its debut. This one doesn't count. It came in way too late at the end of the war, made no impact, and I don't even think the Italians used it, just the Germans did. Now I could continue to go on, but this became a dead horse beating about halfway through. For most people, the story of Italian tanks and the Italian army's performance in general chalks up to everything we just discussed on the surface. Their stuff was bad, and they were bad. Let's make fun of them. And although I'm all for a good history meme, I don't think the Italian army deserves it the way they get it. And I
Yeah.
would point to 3 reasons as to why. The first reason is, Italy is not a very wealthy country, especially compared to its allies and enemies. The Italians had a very rough go economically for the past 20 years or so, and simply didn't have the money to sink into large-scale military development or expansion. And because of this,
Mussolini
they
didn't
did
help.
what they could with the poor industrial base. At the outset of World War II, Italy had been a very agrarian country, and actually would remain that way until the second half of the 20th century. Italy lacked any form of real industrial base, and more importantly, the resources to drive one to create armored vehicles that could in any way keep up with the other powers it was fighting and fought alongside. And you can see the results of this very clearly in how they not only produce very small vehicles that would be less taxing on the industrial base, but mostly base them off foreign designs because they do not have the industrial capability to produce their own, so they do the best with what they have available. The second reason is, like the French and British, the Italians had refight the last war syndrome very bad. Because of this, Italian commanders, unwilling to break with what worked for them previously, prepared for combat in very rough, unforgiving mountainous terrain, just as they had fought in World War I. This is where the surplus of tankettes comes from. It is not really until 1935 that the Italian army realizes that the situation has changed and they will most likely be fighting in other types of terrain. But, due to the aforementioned weak industrial base...
Oh my god, seriously, I mean, imagine that, like, you already have extensive experience of the first war, and then you have to, like, let's be honest, kind of immediately, like, it's just few decades later, World War II starts. And just like France, you already are like, there was a hellish war, World War I. Now the terrain changed, things change, equipment change, who you're fighting against change, your economy is suffering, you have a shit tank and equipment. And like you said, whenever somebody makes fun of some country and their army, look at that, they were idiots. Like, I'm never that, right? I would make fun of that, like equipment. Like I said in the start of the video, like imagine a person who walks inside their tank being patriotic. Anybody who takes up arms and defend their country, they are not joking around, right? I'll never make fun of them. It's always, the equipment was shit, chain of command was shit. They weren't, I guess, they didn't have any, experience. People, like how France was kind of suffering of that in World War II because most of them died in World War I. That was just fucked up. So, I'm always like that. Like, there was some situation where there was incompetency in the chain of command or something like that. Never make fun of the army directly.
The Italians have a lot of trouble shifting the gears of their economy to a different type of war production, as it is so weak. I think one reason we forget this is due to the fact that Germany very easily was able to shift production from light to heavy tanks, so we expect the same of the other Axis countries, not bearing in mind the economic differences of the two.
Yeah.
Now you have to be asking yourself, if this is the case, and these awful tanks are the result, why in the name of God would they throw in behind the Germans to get involved in this gigantic war that even on paper it looks like they have no business being in? Well, the answer to that, and answer number 3 to this whole question, is this guy. No, wait, this guy. Nah, I'm
Mussolini?
kidding. It's him. The original fascist brainlet himself, who decided that regardless of his country's economic or industrial standing, he had to restore the Roman Empire. Somehow. And pushed his country into war long
And anyway, what we see right now, like, look at that, Germany clearly lost. They would have never won. And I guess on the if you see the whole thing, it would be like a no-brainer thing. I mean, that's the power of hindsight. You wouldn't think that when you're there, when the conflict is happening, right? And people need to understand the conflict doesn't just, spark fast and there you go, everybody's at the border, Eastern Front, Western Front. No, this thing stretches out. It escalates over time. You don't know who's gonna take it to what level, right? Like who's gonna ally with who. And even if everything's said like this is alive with this, it's some at that point it's kind of too far in war already, and you already allied, and enough shit has happened that you can't change side now or something like that, right? You're gonna suffer anyway. So many things goes into the play. Hindsight is very easy in a way when you're sitting here, right? But at the time, nobody can predict that.
Before it was ready, even actually before World War II began, when he got into a conflict in Ethiopia in 1935. And to do this, Beanhead Benito rapidly expands his military under the aforementioned economic and industrial problems, of which the poor tanks are only one of many disastrous results, along with holes in logistics, outdated weapons for the infantry, and just an overall lack of modern fighting equipment for the military. I mean, just look at the Italians outside Stalingrad. They're not even really given a fighting chance with what they were equipped with. So my main point is, although Italian tanks are an excellent meme, they were born out of a desperate situation and not really in ignorance of the facts of what made a good tank at the time. And I think you could broadly apply this to most of the Italian army, that they were willing to fight and could fight well, but were horribly let down by their leadership's inability to reason with the facts on the ground.
There you go.
I would like to thank my patrons on Patreon for making this video possible, especially the ones at the 5...
Yeah, so like I said, it's always either chain of command, they didn't have any experienced people to train them, equipment failure, leadership problem, but never the army itself. Nobody takes arms and defend their country and, are horrible at it or something. You don't go half-assed, right? If you're going there, you'll be 100% in. So, yeah. I didn't know the Italian tanks were that bad, but apparently there you go. I mean, yeah, seeing Mussolini, if you've seen any clips of Mussolini, you'd be like, that's not a competent man, let's be honest. So yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Alright people, that was the Italian tank meme by the channel Potential History. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time.